Hello, everyone. Welcome to the eighth episode of the DevStandup. And today we have really interesting and very professional guest, Jeffrey Jacobs. He has multiple decades of experience as an independent consultant, originally in Oracle until 2018. He's specializing in Snowflake since that time. So he left the consulting in 2023 to build AltaSQL for Snowflake, which is a patented SQL generation and management system for Snowflake. Apart from that, Jeffrey is also an author and speaker. So really kind of pretty impressive career, I would say. And today he's going to talk about replacing hand code NGSQL scripts with metadata generation. And without further ado, I would like to pass the microphone to Jeffrey so we could listen his topic. So Jeffrey, floor is yours.
Okay. First of all, thank you for having me. Second of all, do you have any other questions or so forth to start out with? Because I did not come with an exactly prepared presentation, but I've done, we'll see how it works and how it goes. Okay. So I didn't actually prepare a deck for this, so a lot of it be talking off the cuff. So we started out with a basic thesis. Actually, let me back up. I've been doing metadata generation of stuff for many years. Some people like to call the lazy programmer. I spend more time figuring out how not to write code than I do writing code, which would sometimes annoy my clients because I always made my deadlines, but it's like, when am I going to see something? When am I going to see something? Anyway, so bottom line, this is something that I've been doing long time ago. So one of the things that I've noticed by working with many clients is that hand coding, and we're going to focus mainly on select and create view statements because that's how you do queries. I mean, we have a million products and techniques for doing ETL and ELT, but there's a lot of drawbacks to that. I've written an article which is available on my LinkedIn talking about what we call extract, load, and virtual transform. And the basic idea is we've effectively virtualized views, and we actually use the term virtual view. It started out, this particular product started out as a in-house development for a company that had ClickSense scripts that they used to develop dashboards, and they were the subject of many years of copy and paste, and we like to do it this way, we want to do it this way. But in the end, they wanted to convert each of their dashboards to a Snowflake view. And they wanted them to work with their existing dashboards, which meant that we needed to make sure, in particular, that both the business logic and the names were consistent with what they currently had. And in most cases, or in a lot of cases, those names were built up internally in the scripts from the original source table column names. So this also was one of these cases where a 90-day contract got compressed to 60 days. So what we did is we came up with this basic technique of pulling the metadata from your source tables, putting them, we did this in spreadsheets. We now have much more sophisticated ways to do that, but spreadsheets are sometimes still really efficient for doing a lot of bulk work. So basically what we do is we start out and we pull the data, the metadata from your existing source objects. And we do this when we create a repository. So let me just let's switch screens and see if I can walk you kind of through a demo. But the basic intent is that instead of having to, let's kind of keep it simple a little bit. So do either of you write SQL? Because if you're not writing SQL, some of this might not make sense. Have you ever had to write SQL out of con? Okay, all right. So writing it by hand is let's face it, a pain in the butt. Okay. What happens if you drop a comma? What happens if you accidentally add a comma? On a complex thing, you can spend hours literally chasing down particularly the punctuation errors. Period, parens, or commas. We get rid of that, pretty much eliminate that 100%. The only way you can do that, and we'll talk about this hopefully as we go through a demo, is when you can add expressions. And we'll talk about adding expressions. But basically what we now have is we have a table, and you can simply say generate the view or generate the select statement, generate the SQL, and it will create a syntactically correct, properly executed, verified statement without your having to ever work with a script. Okay, think about the amount of time this can save you. Think even more about the amount of frustration this can save you, because there's nothing worse than trying to work with a big script to try and find where your little finger, because this finger's been bad for years. It's amazing how many times I mistype Control-C and Control-V, which is great for wiping out your script. Okay. I call this the tyranny of the little finger. So my basic thing when I went to build this is I've built one-offs for clients for years, and I wanted to build something that works the way I want it to. And it started out, well, we don't really care about that. I hope that's go away. Sorry, I get distracted there. Anyway, we started out fairly simple. And then we realized as I started coding it that, oh my God, pretty much anybody that writes a view will typically use column alias syntax. Well, our whole thing was generating views to begin with. So what the heck? Why should you create a view if you can simply call a function and generate a select statement? And now you will get, and we'll show this. In fact, let's kind of just jump in instead of just talking. So share. Window. Okay. So everything is SQL. There's no GUI, and the reason we don't have a GUI, although at some point we think we'd like to, is that you're not writing SQL, but you're basically working with SQL. So there's two ways to work with this tool primarily. One is we have a whole set of functions. We have like 50 functions, most of which only developers will ever use, and most of them are for fine-tuning what we call the virtual views. So let's take a look and see if we can do this. So the first thing we do is we create a repository. Okay, let's see. So, and we just simply, let's see if I have one here. Okay, so if I execute this statement, and we're only going to do this once because pretty much everything that we're going to generate is what we call, all right, Control-C, let's do a new window here. I'm going to have to watch my time because I talk a lot. So basically, we generate two kinds of SQL, one of which is for managing the metadata, and the other one is for generating the select and create view statements. So here we create a repository, and you will see there are multiple columns. Okay, and it's just basically a table, and we layer an interpretation engine on top of it so that it uses this for generating the SQL. So we're not going to show this because one of the key things about AltaSQL is it does not generate the generated SQL. It's yours to review, edit, file, do whatever you want with. And in many cases, as we'll see, you actually just want to edit it. So let's close this. Okay, let's come back over here. So now once we've created let's find a select statement. We'll just show you an example. Oh, there we go. So when you first start out originally, you automatically have all the objects pulled into a repository, and you can generate a select star. And all you have to do is write a simple function, which I'm going to have to find. Like this one. Okay, this isn't going to be a select star. We got to come over here for select star. Okay. So this function and basically generates the select statement. So this is a select star. Now you first start out with select star. Everything is fully qualified with the database name and everything. And now what you have is what we call a virtual view. So if we think about what we saw in the repository is organized into view definitions. This is a very key thing. So when you create a repository, every object that you pull in is in there as a view definition. That's our basic object within the repository. Now, one of the key things here is the view definition both does column transforms and generates it. And a key thing here is what we call serially reusable. So now you can take a view definition, copy it or clone it, and make changes of all types, including, as we will see if I watch my time, changing names. So one of the key things that we've been saying for 2 years, and that we're actually expanding on this, is that if you want to try to generate SQL with a large language model, it's going to help a lot if your column and table names are in natural language. So that was one of the first things that we did. Is when we originally did it, it was for presentation, and then we looked at it and said, oh, well, this just works for generating the select statement. And when we generate a select statement, we're calling that a virtual view because you can do all sorts of nifty things with this. Just from an editing point of view, think about what you want to do. So this works. So let's make sure that it works because I need to be sure I'm logged in. Nope, we need a database connection. Shoot. So all of our select statements are editable. That means that if you're working manually, you can simply edit it. You can add expressions. You can change the names. You can add columns. We have a demo on this if you want to look it up. But that's one of the key things is you don't have to write all the column names when you go to write a new select statement. You simply do this, and if you want to get rid of them, you can either delete it or copy it, or you can go into the metadata repository and write a function that says, hey, delete this view column from the view definition, or simply ignore it. And we can do both. So again, we have complete control of everything we do. So let's see, what were we going to do next? We were going to now look at doing views. Okay. So again, we have the same kind of thing. Now, let's see, let's go back to where we were. Let's see. Okay. So to generate a view, we simply have functions that say, generate a view. Now, I can't actually generate this one because it already exists. We actually have a lot of built-in error checking to keep you from damaging it. So what we'll get is a create view statement. Now, the nice thing about it, if you've either of you ever worked with Snowflake? Yes, no, or maybe? No. You ever tried to write a create view statement and add column comments or expressions? Yeah, well, even in Postgres, it's a pain in the butt. Because if you want to add comments, you have to write alter statements, or you have to create this column list. Okay, well, we get rid of all that. Now in Snowflake, when you create a view, not only does it generate the comments are initially sucked in when you create the repository, and they're always carried forward. So now you can actually have your views automatically commented, and the comments are still in the repository. So in this particular case, this is going to be a royal pain if you need to want to do it by hand, or you have to write alters for each of these. Now this data type thing is something that we generate automatically, just to help you keep track of what the original source data type is. But you will see here that we have other comments, and you will see that in Snowflake, you can also do dynamic data masking and Snowflake tags in here. And this is all just a nightmare to try to do by hand. And everything has to be in the correct order. And it's just royal pain. So now what we've done is basically eliminated probably 90% of the grunt work. So questions so far, am I going too fast or? Okay. Okay, other things that we can do is we have tags. So this is a metadata repository. In the metadata repository, you can add tags. In particular, you can add tags that you can use to modularly construct your select statements and views. So here you will see that we have a function that lets you add a tag. And then when I want to create a replace a view, I can tell it to pull a tag from a library. So I can create libraries of from clauses and post from clauses and a bunch of other stuff. Now let me just find a basic. I think I know I can find a basic demo. Okay, so one of the things you can do is you can add expressions. Okay, so here, for example, I think we can edit, generate this one. Now I can add an expression. Okay, well, you'll see here, we can add expressions. So you can see here we have an add expression. Now, if I can get into this one, you can see how that works. But I got to get us in there, and that means that I have to do MFA. And we're running out of time. So bottom line is you can add, let's kind of sum this up a little bit. You can add expressions. So for many cases, these are what are called virtual columns. And now, for example, when you go to debug a complex statement, give me a second here. The only place that you know that you made a mistake if you have a syntax error is when you added a complex expression. So you don't have to go through the whole script. You just go, oh, let me go look at the expression I added and make sure that it's correct and fix it. So I only have to work on a column at a time. I don't have to work on the full script. So let's see here. I might be able to do this pretty quick. And we'll stop here when this is done. So anyway, basically, if I executed this statement, let's see how fast I can do a real-time demo here. Let's get rid of that. And let's try this one more time and see if we got it right. Apparently no, because I'm picking on the wrong one. The joys of doing live demos. There we go. Okay. So even with all my fumbling around looking for stuff to do, you will see that if I actually try to run this and I get an MFA response back in time, that we now have something with a relatively complex expression. And you will see that we have a commission over here. Okay. So given that we're running really close on time, guys, let's wrap. There's just a ton of stuff that you can do with this. I mean, it is a very complete system. It is something that came from a vision. It has a very strong theoretical background. We managed to patent it. And in fact, even though it's currently for Snowflake, we're actually looking to license this for other databases because the patent is not Snowflake specific. And the underlying software is pretty straightforward and easy to transform into other languages. So I think that's probably enough for now.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It was really interesting. Atakan has a couple of questions to ask.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. One of the question I had was gonna be, this is on like Snowflake specific. So like, was there any plans for the other database engines? But you kind of answered that at the end. So like,
Yeah,
if sorry,
go ahead.
I don't know, like if what is the like next one that you'd like to see AltaSQL to be running at?
That's kind of a business level question. We're actually just starting to pursue licensing. I don't want to get into what we're doing, but one of the things that we're probably Postgres.
Yeah.
What we ideally like to do is find somebody that wants to build it either in native Postgres. I know that it has the equivalent of PL SQL, but I don't. Or somebody that wants to build it in a more vendor-neutral language,
Yeah.
such as Python,
yeah,
or Java.
yeah.
I'm not. Let me put it this way: I'm not a fan of most of today's procedural languages.
Yeah.
I have a moral bias against case-sensitive keywords in programming languages.
Yeah. Yeah, and like since like you mentioned the Postgres and the views, I think the beginning guy said like I only use it with the Postgres. One thing that was, I think it's also on the Snowflake, like is this while generating on this metadata, can I add my functions like custom to me, like user defined ones as a, so is it like
Absolutely.
gonna be aware?
Well, what you can do is basically, and here's what our recommendation is: you actually can build a library of your functions.
Mm-hmm.
So assuming you have user-defined functions that, for example, do complex calculations or whatever, you simply add those into the view definition. And actually we make it quite easy, because one of the things that I didn't show you, and if you guys want to run over, that's fine. I know that sometimes you need to have a hard stop at 11 or 12, but I have all the time in the world today. So I can show you what these functions look like. But basically, we've made it easy to add in the enterprise version all the common things that you might want to do. One of which is, if you've got a UDF library, and give me a second and I'll find it because I know exactly where it is. Okay, so making things easy to do includes the fact that what we have done is we generate copy and paste. So you don't have to type pretty much anything that you see. What we do is you actually have these functions, you just copy and paste them from the spreadsheet, and then you'll see where it says required. That means that you have to fill it in. That's a required. This is simply function calls by name with optional arguments. And what we did was we changed it so that if you give it either a null value or, better yet, the string null, it simply ignores it if it's not required. So now you don't have to go look up the syntax of your functions. You just copy and fill in the argument values. So one of the things... Oh, sorry, I've got to reshare. Sorry, I'm used to just sharing the whole thing. All right, I got to find where we are. Not that one. I've got... Not that. Okay, come on. I'm sorry. I need to find. Oh, there we go. Riverside. Let's share again. Let's just share screen. I guess I can just do the entire screen, right? And switch. Yeah, let's do a window. Okay. So you'll see here all the functions. Now we can just simply say, let's go here. And like I said, if you got, I'm more than happy to run over. It's up to you guys. Okay. So you will see here that we have the ability to add a UDF call. And what that does is the arguments are what database is it in, what schema name is it in, and what's the name of it. So now you don't have to type in the qualification. Same thing with casting. Nulls, literals, expressions. We also have support for common table expressions. I mean, pretty much anything you want to do in SQL is simple to do. We've made it as easy as possible because if I got to do demos, I don't want to be typing all day. That's one way to look at it.
So like when I add the UDF and I generate a new like a view and I get the query back, I also get this like the my UDF there, right?
Yep.
That's cool.
You get your expression, you get UDF. If you put in a CTE, you'll get a common table expression.
Oh, that's cool.
And the nice thing is, particularly for common table expressions, you can bring your own common table expressions and store them as AltaSQL tags. And now all you have to do is add it into your view definition. And you can even add it into your view definition and have it ignored until you actually add a column that uses the CTE. And we let you do casting. It's all, casting, so you don't have to write your cast.
Yeah.
So it's probably, I don't think there's, at this point for queries, I don't think there's anything that's really better or faster, but then I'm kind of biased.
Jeffrey, is it like right now widely used by the enterprises, or
No.
seems like it's kind of revolutionary technology?
No, actually, we're really just kind of gearing up on marketing it.
Okay.
We're actually looking for a different business model. Right now, it's currently available on the Snowflake marketplace, but we've known from the beginning this is very radically different, and it requires a whole different way about thinking about stuff. And we've known from the beginning, and we've struggled to some degree with the marketing and messaging and explaining it. We've been through a couple different business models that we didn't think were appropriate. So at this point, there's a free version, and then there's the paid version. And the free version is limited in the sense that it only lets you work with single source objects. But even so, you can still do all this virtual transformation. So I can take an existing table, for example, and effectively create a virtual view with all these features that would normally go into a view. And then you can, of course, manually create the view, but we don't provide the automatic generation of the view. And you basically can't, it's be very difficult to do joins in the free version. It's very easy. And in the paid version, we have what's called plug and play. So we deconstructed the query so that the select clause lets you plug in different from clauses and different post from clauses. So now you can have a library that lets you say, okay, let's test this in production. Let me use the from clause that sends me to the development database. And once I've verified it in the database, then I can do it with a QA database. And once I've done further validation there, now I can take it to production. And all I have to do is change when I generate the appropriate selected from clause from the metadata library.
Okay, thanks a lot for this topic. It was really interesting. And I hope that after this session, the people who are going to watch this is also going to benefit from what you shared with us. And guys, that was it from Jeffrey. I hope it was interesting for everyone. And just as a note that every week we host guest speakers across the world sharing their experience with other people. And if you have any topic or some kind of workshop that you would like to share with us, please fill in the form on the description below, and our team will contact you and you can be our next guest speaker. Apart from that, thanks so much. Have a great day and see you everyone. Bye bye.